Hey Sachi, how are you doing? Hate when the Krokoro gets clouded. Thanks for the resub, Sachi. How are you doing? We saved at a spot with no music. Pity's sake. That little Nipponi's already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he said that woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. Not in winter.
And so the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Your books, yes. I shop that. But bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. Oh gosh. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we've learned from the inspector that the defendant fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear. Even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now.
Why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How could I possibly make a case for the defense?
Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue...
Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. Yes, my lord. Oh, you had the stream muted? Whoops. I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. Hey Sachi, how are you doing? And thanks for the resub. I hope that you're doing good. Pity's sake, that little Nipponi's oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he?
If he had said that a woman in green... if he had said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
Slowly getting better. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. Not in winter.
And so the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
Really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? Got work to be doing. Your books, yes. I shop that. But bourbon books? Not worth a visit. Oh wait, I already read through this. Why am I...
Hold it!
Excuse me, but... Aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it, anyway. Also, I really like this song as well. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London for work. And it was all going swimmingly until until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. Sorry? Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge. There's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn back the clock. Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't.
Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. If he said a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim.
Oh, whoops.
Hold it!
You're right. You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him.
Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly that funny little Nipponese man with disturbing mustache is the culprit.
But let us not forget, madame. The defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman.
Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes.
But if that's a lie as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible?
Oh, really, I couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds?
I'll tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it.
I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime.
Ugh.
If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple.
The argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit.
Oh my, you're too kind, my lord.
That went well for her. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean. What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, yes. Why is this all true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. A reason why Soseki-san might have taken the longer way home.
Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
Hold it!
Whatever's the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Garrett, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room?
The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand?
Just keeping up that charade? Ugh, this is gonna be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean.
Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice.
I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now.
And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this? I don't think that's a question you want to ask, Ryunosuke.
Oh my goodness, yes. He's just the sort.
What?
Spending all his time in that dark, dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear. Poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things to him? He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more.
Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already. I don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. Like some of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. I don't work, I don't eat. Neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. Go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. We're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just around the corner from where it all happened. In that old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence? That's right, Meersham Street it was. Meersham Street?
On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets.
Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Fine, I'll do it then. The day it happened, I was digging up Meersham Street from dawn till dusk. Your books, yes? Nice shop that, but bourbon books? Not worth a visit.
Hold it!
Sorry? Hold it, you say? Hold what? No, what I said was, hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I'd left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say? Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see? Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Balderdash Road. Sorry? Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. This feels like I've seen too many of those memes that's just like something it's like this person is cool as fuck, and then it's a hard cut to someone playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater with their model.
It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective.
I agree. It's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something.
We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly.
Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again. Carefully. And if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other.
Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other.
Okay, so... Man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. But the street that was the shortest route back was dug up at the time.
Objection!
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel? Explain yourself.
Please don't point. It wasn't me, I swear.
What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3?
Oh, me, sir?
What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's being said on our map of the local area. Ow! That was probably really loud. I tried to catch a bug, and I smacked my hand against the desk. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meersham Street, making it impassable. Which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meersham Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? You must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes? I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir? Who, me? Well, alright then. There's a hole in the prosecution's argument. It should be filled in. That's what I say.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful.
Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat.
Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not.
Why isn't there swing music whenever the jury is shown?
Now, if only... If we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. We might be able to tip the balance completely.
Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, Counsel. On with the summation examination, please.
Yes, my lord.
Okay, so... I think what we're supposed to do is, I think we're supposed to pit this against the old man.
Objection!
Yeah. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. Flaw? What are you talking about, Counsel? Well, juror number 2. Juror number 6?
My, whatever do you mean, sir?
I don't know why. There's something about this old man that just, like... I like this guy's design.
I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you.
Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of second-hand titles. Then he returned home on foot.
But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey.
That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes.
Yes, we're well aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection!
Can we really be sure of that, madame?
My, whatever do you mean?
I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat, and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood.
Oh my.
My goodness. You mean? This game uses sound effects like Johnny Test uses whip cracks. Yeah, this game does use a lot of sound effects, but it uses them very well. That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6.
Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat, whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes, was the jolly old gentleman at the end of the bench here with me today?
That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. But look at that.
My goodness me.
That wasn't quite... Sorry, you need a pee. And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell.
On Calabash Road.
Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly, the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home.
Oh my.
Idiot old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming out there, we would have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it?
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You'd like to change your leaning, I presume?
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you. I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind, is it? Well... Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2, the noes 4. So the noes have it, not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the member of the jury. Trial will continue.
Objection!
Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks? It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh?
Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right. It took me the whole day and they paid me a measly tuppence for it. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Well, I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no.
2 yards is a little less than 2 meters.
Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? Wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had hope of passing anyway. We just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. 2 yards is a long jump, like, I don't think a lot of people would be able to do a 2-yard long jump. Ha!
Is that true? Is it?
The incontrovertible truth is that the books purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road.
Crushed.
in a single sentence. And, old man. Old man? You can talk? You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time? How many beverages have been wasted today? 1 so far. Meme Queen. How are you doing? Oh, I can't say I remember. You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Ugh. Also, funny thing, I love that, like, him throwing himself back. I'm doing alright. I love that thing of him throwing himself back at the wall. It's really funny when you get that, like, zoomed out court view, because you can see that the wall behind him is like a full meter or so behind him. So he, like, properly throws himself way back. Order, order.
Ryunosuke, throw it back.
Ryunosuke starts dancing. Order, order. Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. Bro absolutely broke his nose on the desk with that move. Also, hey, Squiggles. My lord. You had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve. Why in the world did you not proliferate during the summation examination? Huh. I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself, where the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over.
What are you talking about?
My lord, the prosecution requires permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses.
It's next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident.
Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less.
I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness.
Alright, no matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as his witness, and no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. Witness? Witnesses. Wow. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Bailiff, smack his balls.
Constable Raleigh Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir. And I'm Miss Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife.
The rarest and most terrifying thing in the world, a healthy straight relationship. What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world.
Oh, really?
I'm sure I've heard that before, actually. Indeed. Apart from the rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean, and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all.
I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, the constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction. They witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat?
That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rolly?
Constable Rolly Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir. What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You'll tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. Why are you chewing on your helmet strap?
It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at the nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man on the dock. Rolly and I both saw him clear as day.
Do we have a weather report? Well, this is an extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Oh dear. This policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene.
Yeah.
But if their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed.
It's death knell, in fact. Because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate beat chancing, and on your wedding anniversary, too.
Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed. However, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon.
What do you mean by that?
My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without a doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less, so you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord. It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work.
Also, real quick,
Hold it!
no time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Miss Beat?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women and children and the elderly can't even apply.
Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling?
What? Ah, I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly. I much prefer you in uniform. And sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
And lead here to the point. We're going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir. Yes, although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all of us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But sir, just the other particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Miss Beat puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
A little over the top, perhaps? Then, kindly describe what happened next.
Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us.
Whoops.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes.
That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume.
Yes, unfortunately it does. You're and you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby.
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there were streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling?
What? Yes, that's right. Of course. There's a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day, every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true.
Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
They're still maintaining there was nobody else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off.
Hold it!
Scattered something? What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling?
What? Yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see. Old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them. And all around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed. As clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Hold it!
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. We saw him. He was the man in the dock, without question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Everything. Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right. He looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue. Yes, sir.
We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box.
Hold it!
Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
What? Yes, that's right. I asked Miss Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it.
I ran there as quickly as I could, and I asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know?
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of 2 model citizens.
Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling?
I don't like the sound effect when she does that. It sounds like she's breaking his bones. Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we?
It was definitely that Japanese man on the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day.
Hold it!
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you?
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was the only light, didn't he?
Yes. One of the fog. Famous for it all across the globe, I believe. It's an absolute menace for those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, all right, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband around?
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. And that's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Like, listen to that sound effect and tell me that's not him breaking his bones. What? Yes, it was the accused, and no mistake. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, top mouth, snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony?
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day.
Yes, I feel the same.
So if that's true, where does it leave us?
The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no, what do we do?
If Kazuma-sama were here,
What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean somewhere else?
Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Oh, right.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Ugh. Why do I always seem to be so up against it?
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it. I'm gonna make my husband punch you in the face by puppeting his body. The secret is that my husband has been dead for years. This is just a walking corpse.
What? No. Oh no, it's really not all that.
My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one.
Please do that.
And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is?
Also, can I just say, Patricia's outfit is very cute. It'll do, Miss Beat. Weekend at Bernie's.
No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. I'd advise that you don't check your mailbox, Mr. Lawyer.
Why does it always come back to pipe bombs? Like, why is that, like, my constant thought process while I'm playing this game? My thought process in this game is just, who would mail who pipe bombs? Oh god, more pipe bombs.
Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please, put your husband's fist down. Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Miss Beat.
Yes, allow me to state for the record that I'm going to mail Ryunosuke Naruhodo a pipe bomb at precisely 3:45 p.m.
Might that appease you? Please do not send pipe bombs to our lawyers.
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene.
Hold it!
Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Oh, wait, is it gonna be the fact that there's only 3 books in the picture? Because I think there's only 3 books in that picture. Yeah. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby secondhand bookshop on the day in question.
After I'd been to the police box for help, well, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. And I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling?
Interesting way of guarding the scene of a crime. I'd like to imagine that the instant that, like, the secret is that he really is just out of it all the time. And, like, Patricia just imagines what he's thinking. Because he's just constantly asleep. So she's just like, she imagined him saying, go to the police box and call the policeman. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. And he's just been silent the whole time. And she just like runs away from him and leaves him unsupported. And he just face plants immediately. Like, no delay as she runs off to the police box. Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Miss Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with the tales of your powers of recollection, you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene.
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other, and What's It Yearnings.
What does the receipt say? Picture of Monsieur Lecoq. Canterbury Yearnings.
And then there was, A Meal for Someone. And the last one was definitely The Thingamies Something. You see?
Yes. See, there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory.
Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure.
There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it.
Well, what did I tell you? And so I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
He just pulled out a gun. Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to. I don't think you're capable of sending anyone a pipe bomb, Rolly. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony?
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they really saw. This is the same. So I think what we're supposed to be doing here is sending either the picture or the receipt. Because the picture only shows 3 books, and the receipt only shows 3 books.
Objection!
Okay, there we go. So you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right, I remember all of them. The Picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Yearnings, a meal for someone, and the thingamy's something.
I'm sorry, Miss Beat. But there's a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
Oh no. What flaw?
Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4.
What?
Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there are only 3 books.
But no, that can't be. I saw them. Oh, I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me.
Sorry?
It's that big old lump of a dead body. The lady's so large, her corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book, that's all.
Let's at least try to remember that the poor woman isn't dead, even if we're insulting her size. No, I'm sorry, Miss Beat. But Mr. Natsume could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you describe.
Why not?
Fascinating. And from your assured tone, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume. Ah, evidence. Counsel, present evidence to substantiate your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have that the accused did not drop the 4 books?
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in the form of this bookshop receipt. Your books? Yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
No.
Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madame, cannot be relied upon. So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No!
Objection!
Are you gonna slam your leg on the table, buddy? No, it wasn't the leg slam. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied... Oh, whoops. What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. For a man who's supposed to prove without a shadow of a doubt the surety of a case, Mr. Attorney here seems to forget that evidence is something he's supposed to have. Yeah. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? Allow me to present this evidence that I've had in my back pocket and haven't showed to the court. It's definitely legal evidence because this is Ace Attorney and the court is fucked up in ways you can't even imagine. It's so simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
No.
You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. And why weren't any of these books filed as evidence? Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say... Allow me to present another. One that shows the victim's hand. I don't believe it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. Also, if Ryunosuke flies back into the background, and it zooms out, watch how far away he is from the wall in the zoom out. No. No! Look at how far that distance is. Order, order.
There, you see? You see? Look at that. Look, look, look.
Yes.
It's just like I said. Isn't it, my darling?
It's even, there's another one that's also really funny because of the distance between the benches and the wall behind them. And that is, Clavier Gavin's, he has a, objection pose where he does, like, an air guitar and then slams his fist into the wall behind him. And, if you look at the distance of it, it makes it look like he has a massively long arm, and it's really funny. Apollo Justice is a cool game.
Yes, sir.
Whoops. I thought that was, Patricia trying to, Also, can we talk about how the ship name for this is Patrolly? Patrolly. Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Miss Beat, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. I actually genuinely don't know if that's how that's pronounced, but... Is there an old school version of Godot in this game? It's probably... If anyone is the old school version of Godot, it's gonna be Van Zieks.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury Yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gaborio, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Miss Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, Ruli? The gentleman paid me a compliment.
Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Miss Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, Counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? She remembers flawlessly, save a few minor details, yeah. It's not odd at all, my lord. The photograph clearly shows the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches, with slight burn marks on the back of it, almost as if it was, in the Garadev household, and there was a fire. This is also the book that Mr. Garadev mentioned earlier. In other words, it belongs to the victim.
I wonder what became of that fourth book.
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You will submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord.
I swear, watch the...
Wow, sorry about that. I, like, swallowed a hair or something. I swear, watch the solution to this case be some shit like, maybe this is the turnabout big top brain inside me, but watch the logic of this case be some shit along the lines of the fire in the Garadeb household was going on. Joan picked up the book and was throwing shit at Mr. Garadeb, and it went out the window because they had opened the window for the smoke. It's gonna be some shit like she threw the book and it flew out the window and out across the street, and she was bent over looking at it when Joan threw a knife out the window or some shit and hit her in the back, and that's how there's no culprit.
The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add.
What?
You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination. The attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination.
Udall? I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat.
So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already?
I like that the first time it was doing the cutover to the jury, it did 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, and now it's doing 1, 3, 6. Or 1, 3, 5. Whoops.
You've heard all the witnesses and seen all the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Yep, that is the correct sentence.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position.
I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you do now?
Objection!
I'm not done yet.
No, my learned friend. It is over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate.
Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... can't think of what to say.
If I may, Lord Van Zieks. It seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. Your lowly judicial assistants have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this.
Oh.
I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable.
Mr. Naruhodo.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance. So, the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Miss Susato, please.
Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. You believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why.
This is the, you're hammering it in pretty hard that I need to investigate stuff.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
A book, recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me?
Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride.
Right, I don't know any English literature at all. So it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride. That's strange. I think I've heard of a book by that name before. And very recently, too.
It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Yes, I understand. And thank you, Miss Susato. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord.
Very well. Defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case, and has hitherto been unlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We've already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. I afforded you this opportunity. Led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. Identify this clue at once. I make myself clear.
Oh, yes, my lord. It's
Mr. Naruhodo, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence. Which means you may very well be on the right track.
a bug just landed on my microphone. Yes, I think you might be right.
So, Counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case, which this fourth book conceals?
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
The back? You? Good gracious! It's been burnt to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It's undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend?
Oh,
Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day, pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide?
this judge seems to be far smarter than the last one. Yeah. Hey, Vindicel, how are you doing? Charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, it's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Keep us waiting any longer then, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. Are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered?
The owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor, after all. It's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious, how can you possibly? Very well. I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Take that!
The answer is that book belongs to the couple who owns the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb.
Landlords?
This is the first time, I think this is the first time we've seen Van Zieks on the back foot. Because, like, he was still very confident throughout the entirety of the last trial. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Miss Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness me. I do think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Also, you can be both. Why not both? Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions, are unforgivable.
Objection!
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house.
Good lord! What sort of incident, Counsel?
A fire, my lord.
Good to say it was. And in the blink of an eye, you know. Whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. Ballet furniture started going up as well. Most of it is, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride. By Jove! The very same title that is the subject of this debate.
Oh, dear me.
Objection!
Risible? Risible? Is that risible?
This is risible. All you have told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Miss Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful. I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly?
Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir.
Well, my favorite old novels in that case. As soon as the fire got a hold of them, that was it. Whoosh up in smoke. Wife started hurling things at me.
Is this genuinely gonna be... She threw the book and the knife out the window? Turnabout Big Top style, where the book was technically used to line up the shot, but unintentionally.
There was I back against the window under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen. Man had his back up against the window. He had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. There is no report of the Garrideb's window pane being broken.
That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb household. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time and...
Not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter.
Not even when there's literally a fire?
The defense postulate the scenario in all seriousness, counsel. You earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife.
I believe it's a possibility, my lord.
That's quite enough.
Oh.
Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly. Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's It's nothing to do with this beastly case. Not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud, simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now, listening to this Nipponese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache. And he ran away from the scene, too.
I do declare you're right.
Ma'am, you're still wearing the wedding ring. True. It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Sense to me. Sorry. What's that? Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. Give me another summation examination, buddy. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks? Are you asking me to dox myself, in this day and age, in the Queen's London? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage.
No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been...
If books are your predilection? If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time.
The leg slam. Fun fact, this was actually, if I'm not mistaken on my information, this idea for an objection pose was originally supposed to be a Godot pose, which is deeply funny to me.
What, no forgive the discourtesy this time? Ahem. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Thank you for that unambiguous response.
It's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up.
Susato?
Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet.
You're not suggesting...
Of course. The defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance.
My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination. Huh. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve?
I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined.
Is this gonna be a to be continued? Yep. I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury. I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination.
I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court. On the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime.
You know, I'm starting to really hope that the answer to this is Joan threw a knife at Mr. Garadeb and it flew out the window and hit the person in the back, so we can send Joan Garadeb to jail.
Accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? There's 3 books of his.
If there was some novel, alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to the crime if the window was closed, can it?
Dearie me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago.
It gave me the sneezes. Yes. Considerably more tangible arguments from all the members of the jury this time around, it seems. One notable exception, of course.
No, 2 notable exceptions.
My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that this was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, the eyewitnesses are correct. It would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts.
But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here?
Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted.
And there I was, thinking this might be hard.
But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends.
No pressure, then.
That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you're prepared, counsel.
Oh, yes, my lord. All right, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Miss Garadeb?
We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident. And the 4th book found in the victim's hand.
There must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes.
And don't forget to keep an eye on Miss Garadeb, and how she reacts, even to the things other people say.
Oh, wait, are we crossing the mechanics here? Are we getting a situation where we have to press these things and check what other jurors are thinking about them?
Accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? There's 3 books of his.
Hold it!
But as we know, there were 4 books, not 3.
Well, what difference does it make? Oh, cool, yeah, we can.
There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord.
Yes, that's the part I have a problem with.
Sorry?
Well, at the point the woman was stabbed. This landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said?
That's not exactly how I put it, no.
Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened.
I think that's what you call a strong alibi.
couldn't have been the landlord who did it. That only leaves the Nepalese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver is about. It's a done deal, isn't it?
I suppose it is, since I have nothing witty left to say.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
Hold it!
So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean?
Oh my, such delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman.
That's great.
If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say?
And not at all extreme.
As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. And so despite one or two minor puzzlements, I do declare that man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say?
Overwhelmingly.
But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. And so I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one.
I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could.
Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady.
Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't really be related to the crime if the window was closed, can it?
Hold it!
But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? Prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, you see? Well, you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? The place was on fire, yeah, exactly. It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh?
Counsel, will kindly refrain from childish bickering.
Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise.
Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening even with a direct hit.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not?
With flames of love, I'll have you know.
There is really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Nonsense, that's exactly what Iris sends to people.
Well, he brought it upon himself. It's playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree?
Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes? But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Miss Garrideb.
Never you mind that. The point is, we were just having a jovial little dispute. Nothing more. And I won't have any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime.
Right, well, we'll see about that. What about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Miss Garrideb's relentless onslaughts.
It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble.
Hold it!
You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here.
You and me both then, like I said before.
What?
I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If you don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning.
What? Heard me? The missus isn't one to mess about. No, she can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, You know, it's funny, I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out.
Shouldn't jury duty pay, but this is Victorian England. You expect them to give money to poor people for helping them out? Victorian England does not look kindly upon that kind of behavior. Plus, like, what is the way of phrasing this? I don't know. This may be Victorian England, but it's also very, like, dystopian Victorian England. Helpful.
I wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf.
Don't even go there, Miss Susato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. And come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? I'm sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? Of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously.
It seems that it's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, I mustered all of my puff to blow them out. I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out. But candles went flying all over the room. Furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? Fiasco it was. Grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, I had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows? Biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. Put me in a hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. Something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason.
We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he or she could have done it.
Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced that they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary.
I think you're going to need to pit them against each other, to force them to accept an alternative explanation.
Yes. Don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions. Just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike.
That's the spirit.
If there's some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
Objection!
Okay, cool. These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. Yeah, the victim's alive. Do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that you say? What's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up. Juror number 3. Do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency, and I have no concept of permanence in information. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garrideb household. And Mr. Garrideb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat! Look at this dude's face in the bottom corner. He's just happy to be here.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Miss Garrideb.
Oh, dearie me. What's the meaning of this? How dare you imply I'm hiding who I really am?
It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now.
What is it?
When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window?
What, I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating?
The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window.
And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, and I lied in a court of law.
Send her to jail. I don't like this. I don't like her. Get her out of here. Banished.
My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy, since I continued to give him justly deserved book battering.
Even though your house was on fire?
Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise.
Of course, I should have realized.
That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Miss Garrideb's formal statement.
Objection.
What? These two statements clearly contradict each other. Sorry, but as a foreman of the jury, I have to object. That's complete nonsense. Huh? What? Banker, don't forget. And an educated man, and there's no contradiction as far as I can see because I have 0 brain cells. Quite so, Mr. Foreman. Not permit a whimsical attack against the good members of the jury council. Nothing whimsical about it.
It's very important to listen over every juror, then you can decide where the contradictions really lie if there are any.
Okay. Look at this. The window could have been open when the woman was throwing books. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Against... Now that you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true. Huh? Fine then, game. You want to play dirty like that? I'm gonna play even dirtier. I'm gonna save scum if you be a little bitch about it. Am I supposed to present this again?
Objection.
No? Cool, thanks, game. Thanks for being a little shit. like, this is a personal pet peeve of mine with Ace Attorney stuff, is I think that I'm one step ahead of this, is the issue. Because this is very clearly a, like... Some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed I might reconsider.
Hold it!
Oh, whoops. At the point where the victim was attacked, or when the victim was attacked on Briar Road, we know there was a small house fire in the Garrideb household on the opposite side of the street. This certainly seems that way, and on account of the smoke, I imagine they would have had the windows wide open in spite of the cold. We also know that Miss Garrideb was throwing flaming books at her husband. Some novel explanation. Her husband, who was backed into a corner by the window due to his wife's frenzied attack. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have flown past the man and out of the window. Only what? Only I can't really see how it could have gone all the way over to the other side of the road, that's all. And so I don't really see how I can change my decision, really. Oh, I see. That wasn't enough? What's it going to take to persuade these people?
Hold it!
Posted something in the memes channel on the Discord. I'll watch it after stream because I don't want to have the audio playing in the background. And the fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garrideb told us he'd been reading.
Well, I really couldn't say.
On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I held it straight at him. And now you've come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right.
Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset?
Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know.
I really don't.
I barely noticed I was throwing a book,
Oh, boy.
much less the title of it.
Excuse me.
What is it, juror number 5? Know something? I've remembered what it was. That memory I'd blocked out. Ah. It was listening to what this granny was saying, brought it all flooding back.
Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Miss Garrideb, or the maid. I'll have you know.
Man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. Just got back home after work, like. I'd put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day. I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out.
Oh dear, what a disaster.
Haven't heard the half of it, boy.
Oh?
The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love.
Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep.
No words, just terror.
You could smell it then, you know. The god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. No, it's a real disaster, isn't it?
I'll never use the word lightly again.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined.
No, I wasn't thinking that.
And throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor. At least attack with honor. Throw the person instead of their stuff. Using a bow or the like.
What? Attack? Where are you going to attack?
Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think.
Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare.
Hold it!
Oh, whoops. Your wife really threw a kitchen knife at you.
That's right, she was chopping meat with it. Had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? It started with that smile she threw at me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. It was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub.
Your wife must be even beefier than you.
Things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really.
I'm so happy for you.
Wanna know what I think? This whole idea of ladies first we're so obsessed with in this country was thought up by some clever lads who'd been tossed in the Thames a few too many times by their wives.
That's a very interesting theory.
What a terrible thought.
On the face of it... Oh, whoops. Steer's statement sounds like a really extreme anecdote, but I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. A weapon I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. So we want to pit this against this.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. I nearly said collection.
Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once.
Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative?
Oh my, whatever do you mean?
An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back.
What are you talking about?
You slipped into judge voice, buddy. We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object beside the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below.
Is that no?
After all, Miss Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4?
What are you insinuating now? You little beanpole.
I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she had a feeling this might be what happened.
You listen here, you Eastern Gala. As a foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer.
I can only give you gay answers, my friend.
Give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house. What? What was it?
I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. but I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrideb household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Miss Garrideb.
What now?
I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Good lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? It's the weapon that was lodged in the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb were in the throes of an argument. Miss Garrideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp. You saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Huh? And my missus hasn't got aim like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now.
Oh my.
Ugh. Miss Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not?
No,
Good, holler away. My lord?
I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all.
Thank you, madame. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but... I just don't think it would be right for this trial to continue to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Wow. Mr. Foreman! I have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents. We did it.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, the number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue.
Van Zeeks is over here like, ugh, really?
Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce.
Van Zeeks screaming, pissing, and crying.
Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough.
I want to try, like, red wine. It's not something that I've ever tried. I find it kind of funny that I've had 2 different kinds of alcohol. And it's, one of them is Fireball.
But what follows is so repugnant it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? Defense's argument is a joke, to which I barely know how to respond. At
let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves with the relative positions of those places being discussed.
What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time?
It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrideb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garrideb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards.
Let me see. 15 yards. That's around 14 meters.
That's what, 45 feet? 14 meters. Oh, that's a little further than I'd imagined. Still fully within knife throwing distance, though.
And, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend?
Of course not. Like, Ace Attorney, I love you, but don't make me explain, like, you just make your prosecutors look like idiots when you have to explain this to them.
And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Ugh.
Oh, whoops. Oh, no, no! There's nothing I can say to that.
That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice.
Miss Susato?
Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he?
Maybe let's pick our battles here. I kept accidentally skipping lines of text trying to autofill the box.
My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes? Go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible.
Also, can I just say, I'm very glad that I was correct on this. I think that it's hilarious that I'm correct on this.
To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joan Garrideb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Saints alive! Cross-examination of a juror?
To be fair, she should have been removed from the jury the instant we found out that the book belonged to the Garrideb household.
Order, order, order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
There goes the bottle.
And unnecessary. Lord Van Zieks? There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned's friend farcical theory has any truth to it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume that they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses?
Yes, sir. Constable Rolly Beat, reporting for duty, sir.
Well. Good morning, officer.
Sorry for dozing until now, sir. Haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir.
Oh, they're so heroic, these London bobbies.
Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more.
Oh, Rolly, my hero. You make me swoon.
Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request.
Oh,
Order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events.
Yes, sir. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrett house are top-hinged casements.
obviously. If anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable.
Yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable.
No, sir. Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window?
And you. You cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend.
Of course, sorry.
I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's room.
Alright, I'll try. They hinge, like, just barely out, don't they?
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house.
Yeah.
But as its top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see.
I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. The casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount.
Yeah, but if you pull the pin out of the middle of it, you very much can extend it further than it's supposed to be. It prevents it opening. This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or a knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No.
You see the problem, then? Good. Your education in Windows is complete. I'm more of a Linux man myself, but your education in Windows is complete, my learned friend. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already.
That can't be.
Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Look, he's in agony, Rolly. Isn't that awesome?
Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw you crumble before me.
Oh, Rolly, you're so strong.
How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed.
Counsel, you can drag yourself upright again. The court awaits your cross-examination.
My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation. I wonder if the scene of the crime is different. If it's something like, the actual proper scene of the crime was underneath their window. Actually, thinking about it, these two actually have somewhat of a motive for tampering with the evidence. Because, oh wait, no, but this isn't on Rolly's beat. If this was on Rolly's beat, they would have very considerable reason to, tamper with evidence, but this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? Very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the Force written on it as a reminder to all of us policemen of our sworn duty.
He showed us that before, didn't he?
Did he? Can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man is what the job's all about. And that's why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. Rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly. Sir?
Oh, Rolly, you're so manly.
Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly.
No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my abilities, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies, and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. Only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. Well, more evidence is always good. Policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. The patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they're discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrideb house are top-hinged casements.
Hold it!
By which you mean you don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see? So they're restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here's the location where the objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. See, I helped with the investigation yesterday. You helped. In what way? Various members of the public were questioned in order to gather information about the case. That's right, sir. Sad truth is, we're all overworked. So even though I wasn't under the jurisdiction of my own beat, I obviously wanted to help. I see. Well, thank you.
Oh, is it my turn now?
Hold it! Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Miss Beat?
Sorry.
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized. Is it literally just the other side of the street?
Yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat. Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with the interviewing the occupants of the Garrett household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir? It really was cutting it close then.
Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well?
Outside Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. Pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that.
Just think, if the woman had been attacked on just the other side of Briar Road, we never would have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary.
That right there sounds like motive to tamper with a crime scene.
But that's the life of a Bobby, after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies. Tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Stabbing this woman in the back. Don't you think so, my darling?
That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. And now it's my turn, I think. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, he would have seen it, or we would have seen it.
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already, and it was dark.
Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can't it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star.
And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said. 3 times at least.
Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As I'm as sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. Certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right?
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat.
And so Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way.
Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly.
Oh, please. I love that Ryunosuke is having absolutely none of this.
And so, I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But, like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of The Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrett household. Good evening, Professor. Nothing to report. I still need to play, Engage's DLC. I haven't gotten around to playing Felxenologue yet. This burnt copy of The Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Have a good night, Sachi. Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Ha! Could it be a different copy, sir? The one that just happened to be burnt as well. Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back, and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them.
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell.
What? I wasn't really. I mean, what's she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am.
I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you.
No excuses. I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Miss Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Times the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't.
Duly noted, Miss Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue.
What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
Hold it!
Miss Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us.
I saw it, I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky.
All very clear. Also, you mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction.
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Roly. He gets ever so cross.
Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem? No, sir. No problem, sir. Did your wife's remarks just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all. You mean Miss Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15.
Oh, Roly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long gone, or I was so long, was because of the bouquet, silly.
Bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Roly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies. He found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Wow. Yes, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling?
Ah! Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Really? Oh.
What was that all about? Constable Beat looks very obnoxiously troubled during, very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet.
Wow. Wow, my brain. Bouquet. Miss Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add the details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was, I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked, I dropped the bouquet Roly gave me. It was in a dark spot, where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it first.
Wasn't the body underneath a streetlight, though? And then, you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on.
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
In case you need reminding, Miss Beat. That was very deep. In case you need reminding, Miss Beat, the victim is not deceased.
I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably.
That's right. Silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there, I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst part of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me, with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose?
Oh! Oh! Yes, that's it. And that's the bouquet Rolly bought for me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Zieks, where did you come by this flower, and why haven't you submitted it as evidence 12 hours ago? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household. In front of the Garadeb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
Oh, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief. Rest assured, I will do my very best not to forget, Miss Beat. You didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, and never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Is it gonna be the rose, because the rose was technically, quote-unquote, removed from the scene? I beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. It seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garadeb household. How did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? We already read this, didn't we? Be a different copy, yep. Yeah, we already read this. Okay, so... I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that.
An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower.
Ah, this is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before.
Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo?
I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Is one of them sunflowers?
Gosh, 3?
Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom.
Perhaps you should consider branching out. Learning some that aren't fruit-based, or fruit tree-based, for example.
Objection!
You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Miss Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to the beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection! Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager.
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact?
No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around.
What are you talking about?
Think about it. Besides Miss Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrideb's book. Mr. Garrideb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife. Would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Miss Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong.
Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. Wittering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good, Miss Garrideb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Miss Garrideb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called,
Tampering, Mr. Naruhodo.
But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it. For a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there's someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person.
Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat, it was you.
What? Policeman? Member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London.
Miss Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. In 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it.
Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Miss Beat, It was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well...
Objection! First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife. Now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there is only one reason why anyone would commit such reckless crime. To hide something.
That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make any sense.
You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats.
Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair.
Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. You are mistaken. I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. That a stark warning in mind, I will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. And where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs.
What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everyone's been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What?
Beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Garadeb's book fell directly down from the open window above. And your bouquet, Miss Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Good gracious! Objection! Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right. I saw it with my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid. That was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement of the east side of Briar Road.
Extraordinary.
But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly.
The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet. That was found in its original position, on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat? Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, Rolly. It isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know.
Had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only, it seems... It wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! Order, order, order! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Rolly, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one too.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation. For why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason.
What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Zeeks is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. England, Japan, makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
Take that!
It's this piece of evidence here, you see?
I'm sorry to say that I don't, counsel.
Objection!
What I would like to know, my learned friend, is the motive for your unthinkable actions, by which I mean that abysmal response.
Ugh. Maybe I was too unthinking?
England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from, Mr. Naruhodo. Human emotions are the same.
That's what I was thinking, yes.
And I think you have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind Constable Beat's actions, don't you?
I seem to have a good idea of my own thoughts and feelings, Miss Susato. Perhaps too good an idea.
Well, I heard you muttering to yourself before, you see.
It's the rose.
I think you'd better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and that I've only just arrived from Japan. Which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that through honorable patrolling, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh yes. It was our very first wedding anniversary.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife. And was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. When he and Miss Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them. What must have gone through the man's mind?
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Miss Beat puts up with a lot of being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care.
This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for a patrolling policeman, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat. Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes.
Everything you said, it's all right.
So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat.
Oh,
Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious. Constable, you realize the gravity of what you've done. It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. Criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then, it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was laying, and what that meant for me. A crime is discovered on his beat. A policeman must assist with the initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight, of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of a crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. Couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the beat next to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Mearsham Street and then... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
oh, Constable.
I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner.
Oh, Rolly.
Just that one night.
You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street, to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care.
You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon.
No, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly never would have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement.
Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat.
Oh no, Rolly. That was all my fault. I should have never dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly.
Can you tell us, Constable? How many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total? Oh, 4 it was. Yes, definitely 4.
3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garudeb household, of course.
But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir.
Interesting.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it. I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it.
My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zieks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late.
Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired.
All right then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, no matter how insignificant it may seem to you.
Yes, sir.
Carve that lesson into your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Huh? Never again, sir. You mean to say...
Leave, now. This trial is not yet over.
Sir!
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Never thought of a third party planting the entire scene of a crime like that. Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here, principally. The accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who possibly could have committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back.
Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware that this is a possibility already.
Lord Van Zieks, is this true? Very well. Name the person, if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. We'll name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request a cross-examination of a new witness, my lord.
Once again?
My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Miss Joan Garadeb.
Me? Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Miss Garadeb, answer me this.
What do you want now, you little toad?
At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road.
Well, what of it?
You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-topped hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way onto what we now know to be the true scene of the incident.
Yes, and as I said, what of it?
During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Miss Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before?
I don't recall it.
Seriously?
Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he?
Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4.
No.
Make no mistake. You jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madame, let the truth come out.
Yo, thanks for the raid. Give me just a sec. How was your stream?
If you know something about this knife, madame, let the truth come out.
But that's just a common or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere.
It was good? Nice.
We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know?
Very chill. Nice. What's that?
You joking? What are you saying, please, Miss Garadeb?
Only crash the game right at the end. I really hope that you didn't lose any save progress, because that is the worst when you get a game crash right at the end of a play session.
Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe in all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it.
Don't think you lost much, or not much that matters.
Oh, the poor woman. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife, if that's what you want. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst.
Well,
Mr. Naruhodo?
if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror.
Oh,
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks.
I'm going to have to testify.
Yeah, it's because you're being uncooperative. Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, this testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Miss Garadeb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. Hey, Cardcaptor Kitty, how are you doing? I'm doing alright. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Doing great? Nice. Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes. My name is Joan Garadeb. And I'm a juror, and such like.
Sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid. Or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. You understand, madame?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
No. Oh, dearie me.
Enough, Joni. Nothing to worry about now.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Are we really gonna have to go through another witness testimony? Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? I rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garadeb. Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fulseers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life. Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Well, yes, quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court.
Going to juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony. Now, juror number 4, that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. There, at once.
And I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to end for tonight as well. I really hate leaving off on these cliffhangers, and I really hoped to finish this trial today, but I guess we're gonna finish this trial right at the start of the next, at the start of next stream. So yeah, exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord, exclamation point socials if you want to check out my Blue Sky or my YouTube channel where I post all my VODs. Otherwise, give me a sec and we'll find someone to raid. Will it be Sin? I don't know if Sin is streaming. But if Sin's streaming, it's probably gonna be Sin. Sin's off today. Who all is streaming that I follow? Oh, is DG playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder? Yeah, DG's playing Super Mario Wonder. Let's read. Actually, I don't know if DG is playing Super Mario Wonder. Oh, wait, he's doing a BRB right now. Give me just a sec. I need to check something. Okay. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I should be streaming either more of this or, depending on how my voice is feeling, I might pivot over to some randomizer, or depending on the availability of Spoods and Pine, we might do either Calamity or like Risk of Rain Returns or something. Otherwise, I guess have a good one and take care.